This short training program is designed to review basic safety procedures for those experienced oxygen-acetylene welders who already know how to operate the equipment. There are a wide range of potential hazards when using welding and cutting equipment. More training is required. This program concentrates on the equipment and not all the many other hazards associated with welding. First, before beginning your day, inspect equipment, including hoses, regulators, valves, and other assemblies to ensure that they're in good working condition and free of oil before each use. All welders know that oil and oxygen don't mix and can create an explosion if mixed together. Replace or repair damaged or deteriorating equipment. Keep a Class ABC fire extinguisher near, as the ABC extinguisher will put out most types of fires, except exotic metal fires, which requires a Class D extinguisher. Check for and immediately repair gas or oxygen leaks when preparing to begin welding cutting operations. Use a solution of soapy water or its equivalent to check for leaks. Never use a flame to check for leaks. Never force connections that don't fit. Watch out for connectors with faulty seats. Replace damaged connectors. When lighting the torch, point it away from persons and combustibles. For improved safety, use reverse flow flashback arrestor check valves. The use of check valves on regulators is strongly recommended to reduce the possibility of reverse flow of gas, which can create a dangerous mixture of fuel and oxygen. Mixed gases will burn rapidly once the torch is lighted and can explode in the hoses, regulators, or cylinders, resulting in serious damage to the equipment and/or injury to the operator. Reverse flow from one line to another can be caused by a damaged or plugged tip, loss of pressure in one line, a cylinder in use that's empty, flashbacks. Check valves should be tested for proper function at least every 6 months. Careless usage, dirt, or abuse can shorten check valve service life and require more frequent testing. Oxygen is natural in the atmosphere. It's produced industrially by distilling air below its freezing point. Oxygen does not burn or explode. However, oxygen is an accelerant. It causes everything it comes in contact with to burn hotter and faster. Oxygen is heavier than air. Acetylene is a compound of hydrogen and carbon. The explosive range is 3.0 to 93%. Acetylene needs only 10% oxygen to ignite. It's produced when calcium carbide is mixed with water. Acetylene is an unstable gas and will violently decompose when in a pure state above 15 pounds per square inch. It has a burning temperature of 4,600 degrees Fahrenheit and 5,700 degrees Fahrenheit when burned with oxygen. Keep gas and oxygen cylinders in an upright position and chained to a support. Always use an appropriate cart to move cylinders and secure the protective cap over the valve before moving. Keep cylinder caps in place when cylinders are not in use. Store oxygen cylinders away from flammable gas cylinders. Safe storage means separation greater than 20 feet or separated by a fire barrier at least 5 feet tall. Do not allow acetylene gas to come in contact with unalloyed copper. An explosion could result due to formation of copper acetylide. Do not store cylinders overnight with pressure on the regulator. Make sure that a combination backflow preventer flashback arrestor is installed between the regulator and the hose if the torch does not have one built into its handle. Always use a pressure regulator. Use the proper regulator for each gas and pressure range. Do not use acetylene at pressures higher than 15 pounds per square inch gauge or PSIG. Blow out cylinder valves before attaching regulators. Release the adjusting screws on regulators before opening the cylinder valves. Open cylinder valves slowly. Do not stand directly in front of the regulator while opening. Purge oxygen and acetylene lines before lighting the torch. Light the torch with a friction lighter or stationary pilot flame. Light acetylene before opening the oxygen valve on the torch. Remove leaking cylinders from inside storage and notify the supplier. Do not tamper with or attempt to repair cylinder valves. Note the supplier. When a cylinder is empty, close its valve and mark it empty or MT. To properly light the welding torch, the first step is to purge the hoses. Open the valve on the acetylene torch valve 1/4 turn. Adjust the acetylene working pressure, less than 15 pounds per square inch gauge or pounds per square inch absolute, with the gas regulatory screw. Close the acetylene torch valve. The proper procedure with oxygen cylinders and torches is to slowly open the oxygen cylinder valve all the way. Open the oxygen torch valve 1/2 turn. Use the gas regulator screw to adjust the oxygen to working pressure. Turn off the oxygen torch valve. To light the torch, reopen the acetylene torch valve 1/4 turn and light the gas with a friction lighter or other approved method. Never use matches or open flames. Open the oxygen valve 1/4 turn and adjust the flame. To shut off the torch, close the torch valves, acetylene first, then the oxygen. Close the cylinder valves again, acetylene first, then the oxygen. Open both torch valves to release the pressure. Shut off the regulator adjusting handle until you can no longer feel any spring tension. Close the torch valves. Wear leather gloves. Wear flame-resistant pants and long-sleeved shirts or coveralls made of treated heavy cotton or wool. Do not wear synthetic blend materials. Keep sleeves and collars buttoned on clothing. In some cases, leather chaps, sleeves, aprons, and/or chaps may be appropriate. Wear leather ankle-height or higher work boots. Do not tuck pants into boots. Do not wear cuffed pants or other garments such as shirt pockets, rolled sleeves, and other situations that provide a trap zone for sparks or slag. Do not blow off clothing at the end of the work period with compressed oxygen. Wear eye protection with the appropriate shade. Additional PPE may be recommended for specialized work conditions such as overhead work, hearing protection, hoods, and others. Special equipment may be required for work in confined spaces or areas with inadequate ventilation, which may require respirators and other equipment. Keep hoses, cables, and other equipment clear of passageways, stairs, ladders, etc. Take steps to prevent sparks from falling through floor cracks, etc. Remove or protect combustible material in the falling spark zone. Remove combustibles at least 35 feet from hot work. If combustibles cannot be relocated 35 feet from hot work, you should complete a hot work permit and obtain permission before welding. Before cutting or welding on an empty container, be sure that it does not contain flammable vapors or any residues that might burn or give off flammable or toxic vapors. Keep flame and hot slag off of concrete. Intense heat may cause flying particles of concrete. Ensure adequate ventilation in the work area. Increased ventilation and/or respiratory protection may be necessary when welding or cutting involves cadmium, zinc, lead, fluorine compounds, or other toxic materials. Always check the equipment for proper working order before conducting cutting or welding operations. Always check that the valves are closed at the torch before turning on the gas cylinder regulator valves. Always check the equipment to be used for signs of wear or damage. Listen for leaks. Always conduct work area examinations and inspections. Always provide good ventilation to the workspace. Always wear appropriate clothing and protective equipment. Always light the torch away from your body. Basically, welding safety is your responsibility. Don't take shortcuts or ignore proven safety procedures. The cutting torch is a valuable and useful tool designed to quickly and efficiently cut metals in a variety of applications. Working with oxygen fuel cutting and welding torches presents a number of hazards, making the use of proper safety and operating procedures mandatory. Since cutting operations consume oxygen, adequate ventilation must be used to prevent oxygen deficiency, flammable and toxic gases or fumes while working in confined spaces. Remember, when working in confined spaces, be sure that all the requirements for work in confined spaces are followed, as confined spaces can become a death trap. As with all jobs, proper personal protective equipment is imperative for protection from flying slag, sparks, and of course, bright light. Sunglasses or street glasses should never be worn, as they provide no protection from the many potential eye hazards. Protective sleeves, gloves, and aprons should be worn to guard the skin and clothing against burn or flying sparks. Never wear clothing with oil or grease on them, as the spark can quickly set your clothing on fire. Safety shoes are also a must, as the hazard of hot slag can quickly burn through tennis shoes, not to mention the potential of dropping of heavy material on your foot. When working with oxygen fuel operations, fire prevention should be a prime consideration. A good working knowledge of the equipment you use on the job is important for both safety and efficient operations. Difficult cutting torch systems include oxygen and, of course, a fuel supply such as acetylene gas. Regulators are attached to the cylinder, and they function to reduce the high pressure found in the cylinders to a usable low pressure. The pressure adjusting screw works to control the flow of gas to the hose and torch. When the screws turn clockwise, the regulator will allow gas to flow from the regulator to the hose and torch by applying a mechanical force to the spring, which controls flow. High-pressure gases should never be used directly from a cylinder without a regulator. Regulators are connected to the cylinder by the inlet connector. Most fuel inlets have left-hand threads with a V-notch around the connected nut to further designate the connection for fuel. Use only non-sparking tools to attach regulators to cylinders. All oxygen connections have right-hand threads. Be sure that all connections are free of dirt, oil, and grease. Again, never use oil or grease on any connection. A high-pressure gauge will indicate the pressure entering the regulator from the cylinder. A low-pressure gauge indicates delivery pressure from the regulator to the hose and torch. Generally, acetylene low-pressure gauges are calibrated to 30 psig, but 15 psig is the highest safe operating pressure you should use. Outlet connectors are the places where the welding hoses are attached to the regulator. Again, fuel gas regulators have left-hand threads, which meet with left-hand hose connections, and conversely, oxygen regulators have right-hand threads. The hose transports low-pressure gases from the regulators to the torch. The hoses actually are color-coded for easy identification. Green denotes oxygen, and red, of course, fuel. Be sure to keep hoses away from flames, hot slag, and sparks. Inspect your hoses regularly for damage such as cuts, burn sections, and general wear. Never use an oxygen hose to splice a fuel hose and vice versa. Be sure to replace your welding hose if damaged, cracks, and severe wear is noticed. The process of cutting metal is caused by bringing the metal to a molten state using high-pressure oxygen to rapidly oxidize the metal, completing the cut. Prior to beginning of the cut, choose the proper tip as recommended by the manufacturer, wear all required safety equipment, and follow cylinder and regulator safety procedures. Open the oxygen valve on the torch completely. Then open the preheat oxygen control valve on the cutting attachment and adjust the oxygen regulator to the desired pressure. Then close the preheat valve. Next, open the fuel valve on the torch handle and adjust the fuel regulator pressure. Go ahead and close the fuel valve on the torch. Briefly, press the cutting torch lever to purge the gases. Go ahead and open the fuel valve on the torch handle about 1/2 turn and ignite the fuel with the spark lighter. Continue to increase the fuel until the flame is about 1/8 inch from the tip. Then reduce the fuel to return the flame to the tip. Slowly open the preheat oxygen control until the flame becomes a short inner cone, known as the neutral flame. You've heard the term cracking. This means before connecting a regulator to a cylinder valve, the valve should be opened slightly and closed immediately. The valve shall be opened while standing to one side of the outlet, never in front of it. Never crack a fuel gas cylinder valve near other welding work or near sparks, flame, or other possible sources of ignition. During the cutting process, if you press the oxygen lever, you'll see that the flame changes. If you hear a backflash, immediately turn off the preheat oxygen control, then the fuel valve, and allow the torch to cool before relighting. When working, hold the torch in both hands, using one to stabilize the torch. Direct the flame to the area where the cut is to begin, heating it to a bright cherry red, then press the oxygen lever to begin the cutting process. Using a cutting torch safely is no secret. It just requires following standard safety procedures and, of course, a little practice. Always know the material you're welding or cutting. There are many metals that give off toxic gas or fumes that could harm your health. Cadmium and other such materials require special training and precautions. Always wear the proper personal protective equipment and follow the rules. Sparks and spatter fly off from the welding arc. Hot metal and sparks blow out from the cutting flame. The workpiece and equipment get shot. The flying sparks and hot metal, slag, spatter, hot workpiece, and hot equipment can cause burns. There are many potential hazards in welding and cutting, but if you follow the safety rules and keep your equipment properly maintained, it's a safe and rewarding job. Welders are professionals, and most have been doing their jobs in a safe and healthful manner. Keep up the good work.